or around and through the hotel, and ended up on the end of the red carpet when I first got there. And I saw a friend of mine who covers the White House, and I said, would you take my picture? Because everybody wants their picture on the red carpet at the White House Correspondents Association. It's like the DC, time that you want to be on the red carpet. I don't know. And there was a security guard who said, no more pictures on the red carpet. We need everybody to move and get to the dinner. And my friend was so funny. He said, she is actually a member of the White House Correspondents Association. Of all the people who deserve to get a picture on the red carpet, it should be someone who's a member, and she was more focused on things. So I left, and then I snuck back up during the dinner, and we got a nice picture then. But I was so sad. I thought, I can't leave this without a picture on the red carpet.
You got it.
So bad. So we went back up and got one. And that
was this her?
That was a good friend of mine.
Here she is.
We met in Iowa several years ago now when I was at my previous job covering Chris Christie.
Okay.
She was based in Iowa covering all of the primary races and contenders. And we met at this event where Chris Christie announced his plan for education reform.
Wow.
And we bonded, and now we're both in DC, and she works for Fox News Channel, and it's just so funny. That's why I wrote from Iowa to DC that, when we first met, I don't think either of us would have imagined, and we're both, obviously very thankful for our careers and where we are, and to be at the Correspondents' Dinner was really a dream come true.
Really cool to see some people you knew. I want to go back to this photo because we were dealing with some sound issues, so can you repeat what you said about this cool Ford picking you up?
Oh, okay. I'll tell the story again. Sure. So this just cracked me up. I called an Uber to take me to the dinner, and the man pulls up, and he is in a Ford F-150, and I kind of had this moment where I said, how am I going to get in this truck?
In your dress?
In my dress. And so he was nice enough to get out and help me in, and then as we were driving to the Hilton, I was chatting with him and telling him that I said my friends are getting a good laugh that I had to climb into this truck in my dress, and he said that so many people asked, and I said, would you take my picture getting out of the truck?
He's like,
and he said, people ask me for their picture in my truck all the time, so I guess it's a point of conversation. I think it's probably a surprise to see the Ford F-150 pick you up and to happen to be going to this very fancy evening, so it was funny. But he was a good sport and appreciated the need for the Instagram.
Yeah, definitely, and I want to show some more behind the scenes photos that you took, but before that, detail again quickly how this is your first time going, but it's not like necessarily you have something to compare it to. But how did the vibe feel in the room? How was it different for other journalists with the president not there? How did it feel?
That's a great question. So this is where I was sitting, right? So if you see this picture, this is how far back I was. The room is enormous. There are over 2,000 people who attend, and so I certainly can't speak for the room, but I can tell you that the criticism of years past, I haven't been there, but the criticism is that it wasn't always about the press. It wasn't always about the reporters, that it became this very celebrity Hollywood type thing, and the focus was on famous people in the room and not the people. The point of the dinner, a big part of the dinner is to raise scholarship funds. There are, I believe it's 23 scholarship recipients who are young students who the dinner raises money for them, and then, however you feel about Hollywood, they just said that the focus changed in years past.
Yeah.
And this year, from my one time, it really felt like that was the focus, and it was I enjoyed the evening, and I wore my pin here.
Oh, cool.
So this was our little giveaway on the table for going. And it was just, let's see, is that camera? Can you see it? It says First Amendment.
Cool.
So that was sort of the little
that's what it's all about.
giveaway that we got. And so that was a real key theme of it, and I thought that was really nice, so I brought that in here to just show you guys what we got on the table. And you saw a few people wearing them that night and then wearing them around in that is what it's about, and it's supposed to embrace that and tell that story. So
red carpet, and these are
some of the people that I cover the White House with. So when I'm at the White House briefing most days, these are all people that I see there from different news outlets. And there was a panel luncheon on Friday for the scholarship recipients, and the panels are all from different outlets, and they said, we are fiercely competitive because that's important, but we also have this relationship where we sort of have to have each other's backs because we as a group as a force and group, that's what allows us the access we have to the White House. So it's like you have to sort of have each other's backs, but you still want to do your job and you still want to break stories first. And so it is an interesting dynamic in there. And I've found it to be really surprisingly filled with a lot of camaraderie and support, to that extent where you're not giving your scoop or your source or something. And
That's
so
funny.
this was just these are just a group of the people that have been really great. That picture on, I don't know if it's your left or my left, but Jared and me in the center on the left, he was one of the first people I met there. He works for Sirius, and he was the one who told me about joining the Correspondents Association and really kind of gave me the scoop. And he was just a great source of kind of welcoming me. And that was unexpected because, like I said, I thought, well, we're competing against each other. But there is this feeling that it says, look, you're not going to get a scoop before me if I tell you this is how you join and here are the email addresses and contacts that you need. Let me at least help you get set up and to that basic level that you need to be, and then we do our jobs. And so that's been really nice. So
that's really cool.
That was how I felt when I left the dinner. That's I got to see people that have been, really great.
I love
and
that.
And that was nice.
I love that. And the feeling of, I know this was, Hassan Minhaj was the comedian from the Daily Show. He cracked a few jokes. I saw a few. We had some on our morning show today. And President Trump was simultaneously in Pennsylvania for a rally. Did that inhibit a lot of White House correspondents from coming to this dinner? I think it did, right?
I don't think it did.
No.
I don't think, it did inhibit some of them because they had to go work.
Right.
So there was talk that some people had to maybe miss the dinner and go work in Harrisburg. Right? I didn't think
That's what I meant.
I thought you meant more that maybe they felt intimidated to go. But, I think people who could go went, and then some people had to work. But some people, I think the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's funny from what I hear from people. You get so excited your first few years, and then some people they've gone for 10 years or however long that. I don't know if they minded or not. I can't speak for them, but yes, there was the rally for his 100 days in office on Saturday night in Harrisburg.
Right.
So there were two events happening.
Isn't that interesting that it fell on the 100 days? That's kind of neat.
That was interesting.
Weird.
Right.
There was, and I'm going to bring this to you guys later on the show. There was a promo, like a little ad that the White House put out for his 100 days. We showed it on Good Day this morning, and I'll show you guys. It's like a minute or less than a minute long little kind of ad for what he's done, and a promotion, sort of a positive little ad from the White House.
Right.
And that Saturday happened to fall on his 100-day mark, and that's what we've been talking about kind of all week. He's been sort of spouting what he has done, the Supreme Court justice, et cetera, et cetera. Others, have other views on it. There were some jokes cracked at his expense, of course, as always. Of course.
There, that is part of is part of the event. And I will say this, not giving too much of my personal thoughts on the jokes or whatever. I mean, I do think number one that no matter who the comedian is each year, it's a tough job to take on because I do think for the most part, I think there is an effort, or I like to believe maybe, to be funny without being mean.
Yeah.
So I don't, every year when I see the comedian who is announced, I think, well, I wouldn't want that job.
Right.
And then, the second point, I did get a handful of text messages when I was in the room from people. They said, it looks like the comedian is not doing well based on watching on C-SPAN. So so my friends who were watching it live, they said, how's he doing? How does the room respond?
Right.
So I don't know that it translated. I think for the most part, my understanding is, you see how big that room is, people seem to respond relatively positively. I mean, not every joke was a hit, but I would say for the most part, the room seemed to end feeling like he certainly had words for the president, but he had words for all the media outlets. He kind of was an equal opportunity offender, if you will, which is part of the job.
That's what they do. Right.
And so I did think it was interesting. It was one of those moments and reminders that as a reporter, it is very hard to cover things when you're not in the room, right? And so, again, I think, not to get too far off topic, a lot of people would talk about Trump's rallies or President Trump's events when he was on the campaign trail. When you watch them on TV compared to being in the room, I mean, my previous job, I'll never forget my first Trump rally in New Hampshire. It really changed my perspective of him as a candidate and changed the way I viewed, his potential run for presidency. And this was before the primary. He had announced, but before he won the primary. So this was a long time ago, and it was kind of another one of those reminders that I'm in the room and people seem to be laughing for the most part, seem to be enjoying the comedian for the most part, and then I'm getting text messages from people saying, he really seems like he's bombing.
Really?
And so at the end, it's not always possible, but as a reporter, it is a reminder that if you can be in the room, you should try to be in the room because your experience is so different than when you're.
You know what that reminds me of? This is weird, but the Nixon-Kennedy debate, how the TV was different from in person.
It
throws me to that.
There you go.
How different it was, and later how it was different. It was evaluated differently, and then when you saw it on TV,
Right,
like,
radio versus TV.
Yeah,
it changes everything. So
anyway,
that's it. So it was fun. I had a wonderful night. I really am trying to stay away from sort of the controversy surrounding it because for me it was my first time, and I felt really special to be a part of the group and special to see a lot of my friends there and
and this was a cool moment for you, right? I saw you Instagram this out. I was watching her like during it live, like following her. So I'm gonna take these pictures later for the show. This was a cool moment. Tell us about this moment.
So in the room,
yeah,
they asked people who actually cover the White House and go to the White House to stand. And again, I mean, you think about it, there are over 2,000 people in there. And in the room itself, there are more people than necessarily in the room that you would argue cover the White House.
Right.
There are 49 seats, and there are more people than seats. So I'd say my estimate on average is about 70 people in that room.
Yeah.
And there are 2,000 people, 70 people in the briefing room going there, and there are about 2,000 people at the dinner. And so when you stood up, there were not a lot of us, and it felt really nice. And again, that's what I mean. Like for me, I walked away from this dinner, and I felt like it really celebrated what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah,
and so,
definitely.
I had a great time.
Awesome, that was great. I want to scroll through a couple more pictures here. This one.
Oh, I was asking people about the comedian.
Yep. And let's see. And then you were on Sunday. So did you talk about it much on Sunday?
I was on Sunday. I don't know how, that was quite a bit. I joked. I said I'm really glad for concealer and dry shampoo because that was
awesome. Well,
that was tough.
It.
We did talk about it on Sunday. We had some guests talk about it. We had a lot of fun, and it was nice to recap.
There's
Sunday.
The car again, the room. There's one more I didn't get. Your friend.
I think we saw
I get them all. Yeah,
we saw them.
We did.
That's it.
So we'll bring out to this 2 shop. That was great. Great little synopsis.
Thank you.
From Saturday, and you had a good time.
I had a great time.
And now you're off to the White House press briefing today.
Yes.
And that's what you'll be covering for tonight's show.
And there's going to also be a protest today at the White House.
Oh yeah.
Protesting, I think, deportations under the current administration. So we'll see what comes up in the briefing. We'll take a look. The protesters are expected to arrive and have an event at the White House between 4 and 6. So it would be possibly going on while we're live. So maybe we'll speak to some people while they're there, get their live interaction, and
is it a Trump 100 days or is it a May Day protest? Do we know?
I think it's about protesting specifically deportations under the administration. So I'll find out more when I'm there. But that's my understanding of what it is. But I'm sure the 100 days and all these other things you're mentioning are wrapped into what people are protesting out there.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ronica Cleary, here in our digital studio. She's going to go down to the White House now.
Yes.
And
check it out.
She'll check in with us again later.
And if you want to see my updates, follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Ronica Cleary.
You see it right there on your screen.
Yes,
you got it. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to bring you to a live shot of the White House.
Square, New York. Sources